In today's program, we are going to talk about forests. We will explain what photosynthesis is and how this ecological system works. We will also discover how the forest contributes to the health of the biosphere. And finally, we will learn about the threats that are endangering the world's forests. 3/4 of the living matter on Earth are forests. But forests decrease by 2% every year. For a full 1/3 of the world's population, 1 person out of 3, wood remains the primary source of energy, and 50% of all wood cut is still burned. That's not all. Every week, 77 hectares of forest land are cut down for just one single issue of the New York Times. And there are a lot of newspapers around the world. Even the tropical forests are threatened. At current rates of exploitation, they will have disappeared by the end of the century. Forests are crucial to the oxygen we breathe. They're not just there to welcome picnickers or lovers. They are vital to maintaining the balance of our planet. A forest isn't simply a multiplication of trees. It's a complex ecological system in which lifeless things become alive through the exchange of energy. Forests cover 1/3 of the emerged surface of the continents. They act as immense solar captors which convert light energy into vital energy. This transformation is called photosynthesis. Photosynthesis takes place in the cells of leaves. In these cells, tiny workshops called chloroplasts contain molecules of chlorophyll, stacked one above the other. These molecules of chlorophyll can be compared to neat rows of photoelectric units. When solar radiation reaches the molecules of chlorophyll, it leaves part of its energy there. The chemical process of photosynthesis happens because of that energy. Water from the ground and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere are converted into oxygen and nutritive elements which are essential to plant life. While vital to plant life, photosynthesis is even more so for other forms of life on Earth. By fragmenting the water molecules, photosynthesis releases gaseous oxygen. Animal and plants cannot live without each other. Plants provide the oxygen animals require to breathe, and animals provide the carbon dioxide plants require for photosynthesis. In fact, for life to emerge from the primitive oceans, it was first necessary that plants settle the terrestrial atmosphere. This was done by converting, through photosynthesis, water and ambient carbon dioxide into oxygen. But the original forests didn't only provide oxygen. They also contributed to the development of varied and abundant vegetation, the basis of the animal food chain. The forest is the ultimate achievement of the plant kingdom. It is home to thousands of species of plants and animals, which all contribute to the oxygen-carbon dioxide cycle essential for life on Earth. Trees and plants also provide the ecological support for the animal species, which, whether microorganisms or mammals, constitute the pyramid of life. Plants and animals support one another, and each manages its respective contribution to the forest ecosystem. But like all ecosystems, forests are hypersensitive to the elimination of one of their components. For instance, when man, in order to log a forest faster, uses pesticides to get rid of the insects he considers harmful, he sends a shock wave through the entire forest ecosystem. He has upset the balance between insects, birds, and reptiles. More often than not, such interference causes repeated epidemics because the insects targeted by the pesticides become immune to the chemical products used. This process continues up until the day when the coveted forest is completely destroyed. The forest is a good example of an ecosystem. There are others. A lake, for instance, is an ecosystem. Here's how it works. Water contains an infinite quantity of microscopic plants and animals, plankton. Plankton is food for tiny fish, who in turn are food for larger fish. The big fish are eaten by animals, like bears, or by birds or man. This is the food chain, an energy exchange system that makes all of an ecosystem's elements dependent one upon the other. Similarly, there are ties between ecosystems themselves. A lake and the forest surrounding it are intimately linked. All ecosystems are interdependent, and finally form a kind of umbrella planetary ecosystem called ecosphere. Everything is connected. On our planet, all ecological systems participate in the business of life. The oceans contribute to the climate systems, the climates determine vegetation, and vegetation regulates the flow of rivers. Rivers, in their turn, interact with the oceans. Each ecological system has its own internal operating rules, but each ecological system is also involved in precise dynamic interaction with all the other ecological systems of planet Earth. In Earth's ecosphere, forests are no exception to the rule. They give as much as they take. The forests are the lungs of the planet. They use the energy of the sun to break down water in order to create oxygen. 1 hectare of forest produces some 20 tons of oxygen every year. 3 trees are sufficient to satisfy a human being's oxygen needs. The forests are also natural filters that contribute to purification of the air. Because it feeds on carbon dioxide, vegetation contributes to keeping down the amount of carbon dioxide that is in the air. Forests play an important regulatory role in the water cycle. A forest is like a sponge. It stores the water from precipitation and takes from it what it needs in order to survive. In return, it keeps the ground supplied with water, which it lets filter slowly to the lakes and underground rivers, making sure that they have a regular supply. A forest is also a dam that controls the rate of flow of water. This prevents the ground and the shores from eroding. By restraining rainfalls and thaws, it regulates the flow of water on the Earth's surface. Forests are green oceans. In a broad-leaved forest in a temperate climate, the amount of water that evaporates from the ground and from the transpiration of plants can reach up to 20 to 50 tons per hectare per day. In equatorial forests, in identical wind and sun conditions, the rates of evaporation are as high as on oceans. Within a given area of the Amazonian rainforest, Evaporated water can be recycled several times. It falls as rain, evaporates, and falls again as rain. Forests depend on climatic conditions, but the climatic conditions also depend on them. They contribute to more than just the precipitation cycle. Forests help regulate differences in temperature. As living thermal masses, forests keep cool during heat waves and warm in cold snaps. In northern climes, their humidity and thermal masses help reduce the chances of premature frost. Forests also harness the wind, offsetting any devastating effects it could have. Trees were the first settlers of planet Earth. From the Earth's crust of minerals, they took the elements they needed to grow. Through a process of natural decomposition, they built up a thick soil which was enriched by various microorganisms, fungi, and worms. Agricultural land owes its fertility to the forests. The number of plant species on Earth is estimated at 300,000. The great majority of them grow in forests. Lignaceous species for building, heating, pulp and paper, and comestible and medicinal species whose great variety and possible effectiveness remain to be discovered. The existence of forests is determined by specific ecological conditions. If these conditions change, forests change, and the whole land ecosystem changes along with them. Any changes that might happen could alter our lifestyle irreversibly. Air polluting and acid rain are not the only reasons why our forests are declining. Insect epidemics, thaws, drought, and clear cuts are also responsible. One thing is certain, what we do to our forests has immediate and direct economic repercussions. We already have the knowledge and technology to be able to rebuild our reserves and turn our forests back into the rich natural resources they were. It's not utopian to think that one day we will grow trees just as we grow corn. There are laboratories where the best suited and strongest species can be selected. They're blossoming, accelerated, and thousands of identical seedlings reproduced. What stops us from systematically planting trees on non-cultivated land? Computer programs already exist with which reforestation can be planned. Other programs can be used for cutting and sawing up wood, according to trunk shape and market prices. Thinking about the future of the industrialized nations is not enough. We have to think in terms of the planet as a whole. Deforestation is a worldwide problem. In the world's ecosystem, everything is connected. Forests give as much as they take, whether the contribution is positive or negative. When 1 hectare of forest has been cut, hundreds of tons of oxygen cease to be produced. The loss in forest land also takes away part of the planet's air purifier. In most countries, man cuts more trees than he plants. The Earth is losing its plant cover at a breathtaking pace. During the last 30 years, for example, over 11 million hectares of tropical rainforests have been destroyed. an area the size of India. This resource, so-called renewable, may be less renewable than we think, given the ever-increasing needs of the world's booming population. Felling is not the only threat endangering our forests. Industrial pollution is another threat which, although recent, is no less serious. Over 300 chemical substances derived from industrial emissions and automobile pollution are transported by the prevailing winds. Irrespective of borders, these substances reach the forests in the form of dust or acid rain. They attack the trees and cause the decline of the forests. Unlike seasonal plants, trees are long-term victims because they suffer continuous chemical aggression year after year. The repercussions vary according to type of tree. Coniferous trees yellow and lose their needles prematurely. Leafy trees grow fewer leaves, starting at the top. They lose their color and shape and fall prematurely. Acid rain attacks the roots of trees, but also disturbs the process of photosynthesis. When pollutants penetrate the leaves, they modify the structure of the chloroplast membrane and alter the normal functioning of the chlorophyll molecules. The tree's vital system is under siege. While the forestry industry spends millions of dollars on chemical spraying to protect the fragile forests, other industries jeopardize them in order to save the millions of dollars they would need to purify their emissions. Whether from deforestation or chemical aggression, harmful effects to the forests are transmitted to the ecosphere. Forests play an important part in the management of our waters. If forests are no longer there to regulate the swelling of waterways caused by seasonal rainfalls, flooding occurs. If forests are no longer there to soak up rainfalls or thaws, we will see undue water flow, erosion, and decreases in our underground water reserves. Entire farmlands have used up their underground water reserves because these reserves were no longer renewed. Without the natural screen provided by forests, the thin layer of arable land could well be swept away by high winds. The disappearance of a forest can modify the rain cycle of an entire area. If the quantity of water, evaporated or transpired by the ground and its vegetation, is taken away from the rain cycle, rainfalls will decrease and drought will set in. For example, even if we managed to save half of the Amazon rainforest from farming or forestry, it would disappear just the same from rain cycle disruption. The changes made to its rain cycle and the accelerated evaporation of its dampness would transform the Amazon basin into a desert. And often the loss of forest areas means the loss of animal and plant life. The changes in climate that the world will witness during the next 50 years will have a devastating effect on all our ecosystems. To be able to adapt to the new conditions, man may well need the diverse animal and plant life that is being destroyed by deforestation. Forests, like the other ecosystems of our world, are close to the breaking point. Even now, it may be beyond our knowledge and means to restore their balance. It is time that we understood and respected the laws governing life on this planet. When the American Indians carved totem poles out of the trees, they did it to worship them. They were convinced that trees were the guardians of their souls and that their destinies were closely linked to their own. Even if sacred magic has been replaced by the science of the environment, there is still time to recreate a new partnership with nature.